Hello and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Masters of the Conquest Panel Report. Today I'm playing Dweghom Wardens versus a Spires List made in the Forges of Hell. It is Carl's Worlds List. And this is a game before Worlds has happened. One of my locals found out about it. By found out about it, I mean Ben and Carl already told him what it was because he was like talking to them. And we played this game. This game will happen after Worlds, like when I release this video and everything. So we'll find out if Carl actually won with his list or not, or how well he did and all that jazz. But this list is manned by my opponent, who is my local Spires player, Skillin. He wanted to try it out. We kind of talked about it, and we've talked about it a couple times since. So, date of the recording of this is on a Monday while we played it on a Thursday. Skillin's played this twice since then, so he has a better understanding of it. And we're going to go through the list, go through the board, go through the game, you know, all that jazz, and talk about it. Let's go! Egg Wardens. Something I like about Egg Wardens is that it's simple. It's not using a lot of brain power to like set up your stack or count dark power pool or get your chance off in the right order. You're kind of Nording it is what I'm gonna call it. You gotta Nords it, where you're just kind of running MSUs at your opponent and just getting into the proper position so that you can punish your opponent for coming into you or push further into your opponent to start taking stuff. The nice thing about this list is that majority of it is melee. All the spell casting is either buffs or debuffs, so you never got to worry about doing damage with your spell casting. And your guns, you got to use a Fireforge in there. There they are, on your tempered. They're fine. They can run up, provide shooting support. They're really nice because a lot of things are going to get stuck on your list, and having that extra little bit of fire support kind of helps clear it off and do that extra little bit of damage, especially against things that are bigger than your list, because a lot of your stuff is size 1 and only 2 things are size 2. So, Tempered Steel Shaper, double Fire Forge, like I mentioned, 2 Steel Forge. Those are your eggs. I like these guys really well. They're a great brawler regiment. You can anvil with them. You can attack with them. They take a hit and punch back. They're really effective with that. Their defensive stats are really great, especially with their rune counter. And just basically saying to your opponent, take not 13, but 15 cleave 1s makes a lot of opponents just go like, oh, that's really sucky and sad. The way you get that is you use Flux Power for +2 attack, so you go from Clash 3 to Clash 5, and then you Inspire for 6. So your 5's rerolling 6s, so you're basically going to get a bajillion hits. If you want to be really funny, you can actually cast a +1 Clash spell from the Tempered Steel Shaper onto the Steel Forge, and then Flux Power into +5, or well, I guess now +6. And then you can Inspire, so you get Relentless Blows, so you have 1 deal 2 hits. What's really funny? It's just more attacks. And you're basically just gonna hit everything. I think you'd still fail on a 6, but I'm not 100% on that. We got the Argent Killua, who's the Warlord. So we're in the Argent Creed, so it means you get a free Unbreak. What's actually really relevant, and it's something that I remember throughout these games, finally after playing Egg Wardens, is that the Unbreak effect from the Argent Killua's army rule is really nice. Because it's like, there's times where you go down to 1 stand, you're just like, Unbreak, whatever, Inspire Clash. Beep. The next really great thing about him as the Warlord is that the Supremacy ability gives all the command stands +2 attacks. So Steel Forge are hitting baseline 13, they're 13 base, going up to 15. Flame Berserkers are, 19 base, going up to 20. So, where's it 21? Hold on. Get 18, +1, +2, yeah, 21. There we go, did it. So you're getting a ton of attacks out of all your stuff now. And especially your command stand, what's going to be the last thing to die, is going to have just more damage on it. It's going to have the effective attacks of like almost 2 regular stands, because you're getting like, 9 base instead of actually more than 2 regular stands that we're attacking on 4s. Because you're going to 9. What's really, really, really good. So you just generate like an extra stand's worth of attacks. Argent Killua, he also has Remembrance of the Core. This is the only upgrade. It's a draw event on the character. You get all your command stands get +1 attack. So Jazz Hands, yay, more attacks, more damage. The only problem I find with this is that the Argent Killua Warlord doesn't really commit until much later on in the game. I usually use him to sit on zones and then help kind of side charge or clear off or just be in the way as like a 3rd wave regiment. So if I'm wasting time doing his draw event on the character, that means I'm not doing an earlier activation on something that wants to hit and kill something before it takes damage. So the only time I really use Remembrance of the Core is when he is finally committing his regiment in. So I will draw the character, draw event for Remembrance of the Core, all the stands in my army this turn get +1 attack on their command stand. Then I will cast his spell, maybe he'll give Inspire, maybe he'll get +2 scoring, maybe he'll do -1 Resolve, maybe he'll do no scoring, who cares, he'll do something, he jazz hands, waving. And then he'll entourage into his regiment and charge in and do a bunch of damage, and then everyone else after him will, you know, draw their cards. But it's all about a timing thing, so it's a little nice thing. It's 10 points, I had 10 points left over, you know, take it, it's fine. Then we got in here, we got 2 units of Flame Berserkers and then 3 units of Wardens. And then another Argent Kilowatt who's just running around doing the exact same thing. Flame Berserkers, great light. Wardens, great medium. Their Wardens are basically Flame Berserkers but with cleave, and 1 less resolve but fearless. So they're both doing a lot of work. I got to... do I have to remember to vote? No, because it's casting stuff on other people. So remember that your Wardens have to vote, so they get an auto success when the Argent Kilowatt casts on them. Sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just forget about stuff because I'm like, dwarf go burr, and run into people and start attacking them. The last thing I want to talk about is the second half of the Supremacy of the Argent Kilowatt, is you get +2 charges on enemy regiments that are on objective zones. So if your opponent's sitting on a zone, you place yourself 9 inches away. Your opponent might be speed 5, oh that's a 4, maybe they'd have a rule, maybe they don't really want to commit. You're just auto in because all your stuff besides the shooting guys is speed 6 plus the extra 2 plus the auto 1. You're in. It's a really nice speed bump to just like shoot across the board and get into people and start jabbing at them. It's once per game, and your Argent Kilowatt Warlord has to be on the table to use it. So just be aware of that. Usually times that I use it is when I'm kind of trying to bum rush my opponent who might have a weaker flank who's sitting on a zone and won't have anything to reinforce a side. And I'll just kind of like march charge some Steel Forge like across the table into somebody. Do that long bomb charge. Get in. Now I'm either on the zone or I am either fighting the thing that's trying to protect the zone, and not a lot of things can just deal with Steel Forge just right off the bat. Usually takes a dedicated heavy to kill them all in one go. A lot of mediums might kill one and bounce off. Most of the lights tend to not do very well into Steel Forge just because of their great defensive stats. So with that, I'm going to slow roll the rules. Pause the video at any time if you want to read a particular rule. And yeah, let's go into the Spires list. Here's my opponent's Spires list. This is a variant on Carl's list. A couple things that Carl has that this list has, you know, or vice versa, is kind of based upon what my opponent owns. So he called it Caveomancer. What wonderful name. You are... Carl built this in a cave. Why can't you build this in modern society? I'm sorry, I'm just not Carl. Anyway, we're running a Biomancer Warlord. This guy is going to be able to cast an additional Biomancer, which allows you to score zones, and you can also cast your Biomancy on anyone who's in a zone, so that's really nice. You can start using that a lot, so your Biomancies affect people who are on zones. And you have a new Biomancy that turns all your, I believe, your lights into mediums so they can score and stuff. So that's actually really good. As you can see off to the right, he's running 2 units of Strix, so that's going to give him some really good early scoring right off the bat. This Biomancer is sitting in a block of 6 Force-Grown Drones. Degradation Aura, that's that good old Aura of Death. Pretty sure that is. Don't make me look this up. Actually, what am I saying? I can just scroll down. Deadly Blades, where is it? God. This is my life, trying to find stuff. This regiment can attach you gain lethal demise. Oh, it's lethal demise. Oh, cascading degeneration is the Aura of Death. Okay, so he's got lethal demise, and regiments in contact cannot heal. Those are both really good things. Okay, so good. All right, I understand this better. My brain. Then he's got Master of Flesh to cast 2 Biomancies. Also really good, especially because he's the Warlord, especially because he's going to be casting stuff on zones. Then he's in 6 Force-Grown Drones. They auto have a Standard Bearer. Them having lethal demise, you're going to lose a bunch of Force-Grown Drones. And hopefully you they're just gonna, on their activation, break their, what is it? If they're broken or anything, they're just gonna rally. They're gonna do a bunch of damage back on that lethal, and then you're gonna heal up with the Biomancer because he's gonna be healing a bunch. The Ferromancer can also come in and heal a bunch if needed. But the Ferromancer, that's, you know, the Biomancer's warband, that's it. He's just sitting in this Force Grown Drone block. He's doing a lot of work from the back. Ferromancer, Avatar Projection, he's sitting in a big block of Brutes. It's fine, safe spot. But the big thing he's bringing is the 2 units of Strix. The Brutes are kind of like a third wave thing to kind of clear off or just get in the way. You want to keep your Ferromancer and Biomancer alive as long as possible. Strix are going to be flying around being super annoying, lethal demising more, getting on zones of scoring. They're going to be really great for that. And then we have the Lineage Prideborn with Eagle Eye, so you're rerolling those 6s on her barrages. 2 units of Leonian Avatara. These guys are fantastic shots. They are Barrage 3. So not getting a ton of shots compared to a lot of other Spires nonsense for guns. But they are Volley 3 with their AP 2 and Deadly shots. They're basically AP 3 whenever they're doing damage. They're fluid, they're speed 7. They're getting all over the place in their shooting. Volley 3 really lets you move and shoot, while Volley 4 is just kind of like confirming the kill. The Prideborn also has Hunter Killer, so if you shoot a regiment and then a regiment does impact attacks, you will do an additional +2 impact attacks per guy, per stand, or guy, whatever. So that leads into the next unit in the warband is the Centaur Avatara. So they have Impact 3, Lineage Prideborn shoots them. Now they go from Impact 3 to Impact 5. There's 3 of them, that's 15 impacts on their Brutal 2. That's a ton of damage, that's a ton of work. Everyone loves that. That's scary. Last warband is the High Clone Executor. He's got Bionic Hive and Marksman to, you know, turn his arm into a gun. He's Mega Man blasting people. Disperse and Suppress Pain disperses loose formation, so the counter shooting, because he's going to sit in a unit of Marksman clones. Protects you from counter shooting. Nice. Suppress Pain is Bastion. Give yourself a little bit of armor. Nice. Then you got the Vanguard clones that are running up 18 inches to get on zones. They're also nice because they're going to block and keep stuff off of the Leonin Avatar. Leonin Avatar do not want to be in melee. Vanguard clones running up 18 inches allows you to jump the Leonin Avatar, block stuff, and allows the Leonin Avatar to shoot over the Vanguard clones into whatever they're fighting to keep off of them. So you're going to get damage there. Vanguard clones are great for that. They can also run up the flank and score a zone. This list is highly technical. You got to have really good positioning with it. You got to have your deck stacked in the proper way to get all your stuff off. It rewards really high skill play players, and it really shows when you get into those matchups what this list can do and what this list can output. You have a lot of tools and you have a lot of abilities to use. This is what I would call a pivot list. So I've talked about sweepers before, what are like the Ashen Dawn spam. Egg Wardens is also kind of a sweeper. I wouldn't really, I would also say it's a bit of a pivot, but it leans more into the sweeper category. Sweeper, you have a bunch of matchups that are basically 90% win rates. Maybe 80%. 80 to 90% win rates. Maybe 70. Whatever. Anyway, you have a very high win chance. Let's go with that. A very high win chance into those matchups. However, when you meet your Achilles heel, or your bad matchups, you go from, like, let's say 90 down to, like, 20 or 10%. Like, it's just bad. So if you build a pivot list, what this list is, you have a lot of tools. You can also call it a toolbox list. Has a lot of tools, has a lot of flow, has tons of flexibility. It's got a lot of options. It has a lot of ways to deal with stuff. And it pivots around and finds a way to win. That's why it's called a pivot. This comes from Pokemon, because you have your 6 Pokemon, and you'll have your sweepers, what are just going to be like win, 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 and then your opponent's going to throw a Pokemon that's their counter. So you're going to pivot to another Pokemon that might, let's say, be kind of half counter to whatever your opponent threw out, but it's at least not going to allow your sweeper to auto lose and, you know, cascade from there. So this is why this is more of a pivot list. You could also say this is more of a generalist list, but it's really highly technical, and I wouldn't say this is super general. It's doing a lot of things. It's covering a lot of bases, and it can do a lot of damage and a lot of work. The Ferromancer's got that -1 defense on top of the Lineage, or the Leon and Avatara with their AP2 and Deadly shot. So if someone's defense 3, you can hit them with the -1 defense, hit them with the AP2, and then they got to roll to see how many Deadly shots they're taking, and they're just dying. what's super great. Same thing with the Centaur Avatar. There's a ton you can do with this. I'm going to slow roll the rules. And I probably at some point, hopefully, I'll get an interview with Carl and we'll really talk about this list, really break it down. Because there's so much in here, and I've played it a couple times now with a couple lists. And I've seen it played a couple times that I'm like, this list rewards very high skilled players who understand the fundamentals of the game and the nuances of it. Alright, let's get into the game itself with scenario. Okay, so today we are playing on Melee. Great scenario, I like it a lot. You got your two 6-inch zones right here. You're gonna get 2 points for scoring those, and you got your two 9-inch zones right here. You're gonna score 3 points for those. If you score 2 or more, you're gonna get 2 extra points. If you kill the enemy warlord, you're gonna get 2. If you kill enemy carriages, you're gonna get 2. And you're gonna kill enemy archers, you're gonna get 2. So I recently released a scenario guide. Just, I don't know, go check out BonkTable. I don't know how to link, like, over here, if I point in the top left corner, you'll see it. I don't know how to do that. Maybe one day I'll learn, but not right now. I have other stuff to do. However, the base game plan of the scenario is you want to take over your close zone and the 9-inch closest to your close zone. You want to take those over, and then you want to push in and take your opponent's zone. That's kind of the game plan. In this matchup, we had, I'll do it in black, we had a building kind of over here, and we had a building kind of over here. And my opponent, I'll do it in blue, was kind of deploying on this side. You know, he's trying to take over kind of half the table, then he's going to push out into me. Alright, fair. We both know what the game plan is. So, I initially start going for the middle here. I throw some stuff up onto here, and then, like, kind of swing around. So I'm locking down my stuff. And then I make another play that is, I'm just going to throw, like, 3 regiments this way. So I'm going to push hard into this. Because I am in orange, drawing a line here to keep them out of my stuff as I push in and we kind of play each other across that orange line. But then I'm putting a huge point of pressure onto his 9-inch zone while having stuff kind of ride the side of this building so that it can flex over if need be. So that's kind of like not necessarily another way to play it, but like a counter to the normal if you have enough stuff to do it. Egg Wardens kind of plays more, I want to say, towards the Nords end, like plays the Nords game plan a little bit of just kind of running really good MSUs, punching up, because Flame Berserks, Wardens, and Steelforge are all regiments that trade really well as MSUs and also punch up very well. And you can kind of get away with just swarming your opponent and locking them out. And that's kind of what I was doing on this scenario, and I kind of recognized that early on. So let's go look at the table. Here's the table. We got, in black, size 3 obstructions in these 2 houses, like I mentioned before. We have, I believe, hindering and obscuring forests off to the side. Not super good. I'm playing it all, well, it's got 2 Fireforge, but it's basically a melee list. And then we got broken, I think this is just straight up broken. Yeah, I think it's just straight up broken ground, and then water. Right there. So you can tell already that this is just wide open. Right down the middle's wide open. Down over here is wide open. Over here is wide open. So there's not really much cover. So looking at this table right off the bat, I'm kind of have to run into the guns, and so I'm kind of have to look at, I got to be worried about my threat ranges, so I want to be outside of his threat, and then when I do commit to the threat ranges, I want to run everything forward to saturate his threat range, because of how open this table is. Let's go to turn 1 and see how that goes. Here's turn 1! I get both Flame Berserks, my opponent gets both their Strix. My opponent's already looking to get into, and not that one, let's see. Like, you know, this zone with Strix, this zone with Strix, start scoring because of his biomancies I talked about earlier. Myself, I'm also looking to get into this zone and this zone with Flame Berserkers, because I know that the Flame Berserkers, if I get both my Wardens on, I'll be able to cast a score spell on them, get those Flame Berserkers scoring. My opponent will be doing the same with their Strix, and then we can both stay tied up on points. This scenario is all about the zones. The kill points is just extra. Don't try to win this on kill points, win this on scenario. So we're already looking for those spots in that game plan, and it's going to really determine what we kind of get on in the next couple turns. So let's go there. Turn 2. My opponent does phenomenally well. That was a word. He does great. Baromancer with Brutes. Lineage Prideborn with the Leonian. Vanguard clones, double Strix, Biomancer with Force-Grown Drones. My gosh, there's everything. I just get my Warlord on and his unit of Wardens. My opponent doesn't play the Strix right off the bat. He holds them back while he starts deploying stuff. I think I go second. I'm not exactly sure, but he just has his Leonin just kind of run up the table. He gets the Force-Grown Drones and Biomancers up the table. He gets the Brutes on the table. He kind of moves his Strix around. He doesn't need to commit them right away because he knows if he puts the Strix too far forward, they're going to get caught off guard and not really be as useful and just kind of killed off before they tie up something or jam me back. He doesn't want that right off the bat, so he's keeping them at a nice spot. He is going to score this zone and this zone, so that's going to give him 7 points right off the bat, what's really good for him. I get both my Flame Berserkers into the zone. As you can see, I'm checking threat ranges between the Leonin and my Flame Berserks, and we're starting to have that line drawn between the two buildings. Kirawa, I'll do it in orange. He casts the score spell on those Flame Berserks. If I'm going to get points, I might as well get 3 points instead of 2. My opponent's at 7, I'm at 3. I'm not super excited because I had a very poor turn to reinforcement. My opponent has a ton of stuff. However, my opponent's not being very aggressive. He's not setting himself up into a very good position. Well, I won't want to say not a very good one. Not a more productive or stronger position than he has. He has more stuff than me on. He could have been more aggressive with it to try and, like, bait me. Like, I don't know, trading the Vanguard clones for Flame Berserkers. Flame Berserkers are going to come and get you. I got that +2 movement on the charge because of the Supremacy. Your Vanguards don't, but you have the guns to whittle at me, so just get into a better position. Like, he could have been maybe a little bit more aggressive with the stuff. No, Vanguard clones are about where they need, where they could get. Leonin are where they could get, but like in the next couple, like turn 3, you'll see that he could have been more aggressive. So let's go to turn 3. Here's turn 3. So I get everything? No, I get everything but Warden, so it's really good. My opponent gets everything. No, do I get everything? Yeah, no, I do get everything. Look at that. I'm figuring it out. So, I get everything, my opponent gets everything. Things that go on, we start kind of like deploying stuff at each other. I wait for the end with my Flame Berserks because I'm not really wanting to, I guess kind of commit them right away. There's no reason to. I want to save them for another turn. But I'll explain in a bit why my opponent kind of forces my hand on Dude in Purple, like this interaction. So first things first, you know, Steel Forge getting up the table. I realize off the bat that I am securing both my sides. Like, Wardens are going to get in with the Warlord. He's going to cast a score spell on these Flame Berserks. They're going to score that zone. So there's my 7. So my scoring engine's good. As we start trading deployment stuff, you know, my opponent kind of moves up with another Leonian. He messes around with his Biomancers and shifts them over and widens the Force-Grown Drones. He casts a score spell on the Strix, so they're going to score there. He moves up with the Leonian. They kind of just dirtle around. Strix kind of get up here. My opponent moves his Vanguard clones up, and I still have a couple cards to draw before I get to my Flame Berserks, so I threw them at the bottom of the deck. And so now I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to be in the water, but I can go and hit those Vanguard clones now. It'll be fine. 3s, I got like 21 attacks on 3s. It should be good. No, it's not. My opponent then moves his Marksman clones on. I'm within 27. I get shot. I lose a stand. I'm like, ooh, that's not very good. So that's when I finally commit my Flame Berserks near the end of my stack into the Vanguard clones, because it's like, well, if I stay there, I'm going to get shot. I already have the scoring because of the Wardens. Let's put the Flame Berserks on there. The Wardens are in a position to help out later. I get in, I hit them. I don't really do any damage. They're fine. Yay. On the left side here, I swing around both my Wardens and Fireforge. Fireforge are sitting in the forest. They're going to be safe from the counter shooting. I'll do it in purple of these Leon and Avatara. That was my plan there. And then the Wardens are directly in front, to keep stuff off of the Fireforge, because my opponent is deploying the Leonin, what I want to get to at some point. I got Steelforge that I can kind of come in and hit these Strix and blow them up. I got Wardens that can hit those Strix and blow them up, but my opponent's trying to zone me out of the zone, what's really good. And some of our last activations, I dropped the Wardens on the left here to go score that zone later. But I wanted to drop them more on the right, but the reason why I didn't do that is because I didn't know where my opponent's Centaur Avatar were going. He was initially thinking of dropping them here and running them into the zone. I'll do that in purple. Make it easier. Here. And I didn't really want to deal with that, so that's why I deployed the Wardens across, because I didn't know where those Centaurs are, and if he decided to do that, he could blow up the Flame Berserks and just sit in that zone and be safe, basically, because then I gotta turn all this other stuff around. So putting the Wardens there, I really incentivize him not to put his Centaur over there, because he's gonna hit the Flame Berserks are gonna die, Wardens are gonna charge in and kill him. Okay, cool. He then decides to put the Centaur Avatar over on here. Kind of keeps them stuck. They lose a lot of flexibility of where they can go. I initially thought in orange, or sorry, not in orange, purple, he was going to drop them in front of the marksman clones and just shoot over and kind of run up the center. But he decides that he wants to reinforce his zone, because once those Strix die, it's a bunch of stuff bum rushing the Leonin, and he knows from other games that Leonin do not live in melee. They do not want to be in melee, they're not going to kill anything in melee, and they're going to die in melee. So he really needs stuff not to be in melee with them. So throwing up Centaur Avatara, maybe he'll get a charge clash off, kill a thing, and then he'll get bogged down by other stuff, but it'll give enough time for the Leonin Avatar to do damage. So okay, that's not bad work. His Strix unit that he moved up, he's looking to like kind of flex it into the Steel Forge or like wherever. He's looking around trying to see what he can do with them, saving them to get in the way, but they kind of make up his wall. He's kind of castling, as you notice. Like he's only playing for roughly half the table, and then he's gonna have to push out from there after he clears off enough stuff. He's protecting his guns well, but the difference between a Dweg Castle and Spires Castle is that Dweg Castle has the stats to take the hits, while Spires just explode. So let's get on to when they don't explode is when my Flame Berserks charge those Vanguard clones after losing a stand and like doing, I don't know, 3 wounds. That was really great. Another thing about this is that is Leonin, I think he activated them before the Vanguard clones because he thought I was going to come into them, but he kind of just dead drawed them and didn't really move them around. He moved his Brutes up here into the back of the Leonin, so now he's kind of stepping on himself if the Leonin ever get tied up. But he can hop them for now, but he's got to be aware of that. However, and his Ferromancer can still cast Ferromancy, so he's not super worried. But he's kind of gumming himself up in that corner. I'm kind of keeping him back in the corner. I'm putting threats on him, and I'm trying to collapse onto him and just kind of cover him and stuff. So let's go to turn 4 and see how that goes. Here's turn 4. So good things and bad things. Good things, Steel Forge. I believe I win the roll off. Steel Forge, get into the side of the Strix, blow them up. They take like I don't know, like a couple points of damage or whatever. Yay. And so I am not on the zone with them, but they did get rid of the Strix, so that's one thing I don't have to deal with. My opponent activates his Vanguard clones, attacks my Flame Berserks. I lose another stand. I think he loses a stand to Aura of Death, so it's 2 versus 2, and then he kills a stand. I should have probably activated my Flame Berserkers first to try and kill off the Vanguard clones, but, you gotta make choices. I thought it was more valuable to Steel Forge to try and be more aggressive on this right side zone. What I do end up scoring, we'll talk about that later. So I take a bunch of damage, I'm a little sad, but I do remember of my army rule. Once per game, when a regiment first breaks, I auto-rally. So I'm down to 1 stand, I rally. Next, I go into my Flame Berserks, jab back, kill them down to 1 stand. So I'm doing purple here, there's 1 stand left, but they're broken. Okay. Not bad. Next thing my opponent has, he runs his Strix up, gets the other Strix, gets in over here, fights my Steel Forge, as you can see right there. Does a bunch of damage. Steel Forge activate because they were planning to charge in and kill Vanguard clones or tie up the Strix or whatever. I do a bunch of damage to the Strix back, killing them, but I take lethal demise. I roll terribly on defense and on resolve. That one Steel Forge has 4 health left, and his second action, he just walks up the table. Just a little sad little boy. I'm sad. Then my Fire Forge and Tempered Sorcerer at some point walk up 5 near the end of the game and pop a cap into this one Vanguard clone, killing him. My opponent, with his Leonin Avatara, counter shoot the Flame Berserks and do some damage, but because I'm one stand and my opponent misses a bunch of rolls, I think they even took aim. They just rolled really poorly. I survive and I'm like, oh yay, I'm alive still. This is great. But my opponent doesn't fluid or anything. Oh, I think my opponent tries to fluid. Oh, I'll do it in purple. Into the zone, but then he would land on his own regiment if he tried that, so he couldn't fluid, but he already aimed and shot, so he's kind of stuck there, unable to get into that zone. So now he's not scoring any points there. What's great for me. To be mean to me, though, because he's made a couple of mistakes, he unloads the Marksman clones into these Flame Berserkers over here. And that's why you have that one Flame Berserker over there. So he wails them down. I'm like, wow, that really sucks. I'm not super happy about it. So you're kind of done for, guys. You rally and you just double march up. I'm looking, I don't know, I'm like an auto in charge at this point to get into those Marksman clones. I need to like stop his shooting, tie stuff up. You only got one stand left. You might as well just get in the way so that you can stop people from scoring and scoring and shooting me while the rest of the list kind of moves to the table. Both the Warden units get onto zones and they score them out. Sweet. Love that. On the right side, after killing the Strix, the Wardens just march charge into the Centaur Avatara. I'm the horse guy. I know how horses work. If they cannot charge, they cannot do damage. So I got 3 stands there. My opponent tries and does some reforms, and he realizes that in purple he's not going to be able to jump the Force Grown drones with his 7-inch move and his reform. He's going to clip them no matter what way he does. So he just takes aim, shoots into the side of the Wardens, and the Centaur Avatar go, do all their clashes and stuff, and the Wardens live on like a couple wounds. They tied up the Centaur Avatara, I'm really happy about. The Fire Forge go in. They just walk up, and I have to make a decision here. Am I going to shoot the Centaur Avatar, or am I going to shoot the Leonin Avatar? I think about it for a little bit. I'm like, okay, so I want 2s. I need to kill his shooting, because that's the main thing. Wardens, with their 1 stand left and their bajillion attacks on that command stand, might kill 1 Centaur Avatar, would be really nice before they charge in and hit my Fire Forge. But if he charges in and hits my Fire Forge, then my Steel Forge countercharge him and he dies. If he charges the Steel Forge, my Fire Forge just shoot at him and he just dies. The Leonin Avatar are going to be constantly shooting. He's got some healing in the back, but if I can kind of do enough damage, he might only get 1 stand back or whatever, but I need to start this fight. So I decide to shoot Leonin Avatara, only do a couple wounds, nothing too crazy. But the big thing about this turn is I've scored 3 zones and my opponent hasn't scored at all. So my opponent got 2 turns of scoring, and now I'm getting up on points and catching up again. However, I'm still a little worried because all his work pieces are still alive, but I've destroyed his walls, and now I can get into the juicy parts. I just need to make it there. So let's see turn 5 and if I make it there. Here's turn 5. I believe I go first. I believe... No, I don't go first. My opponent... Okay, so my opponent goes first. He uses the impromptu high clone executor supremacy, but you're like, Mass, the high clone executor is not the warlord. Well, that's the great thing about Spires. If you play a biomancer, you basically get a high clone executor supremacy turn every fucking turn. It's crazy. It's great. So he biomancers, he uses his different biomancies, he draws cards, flips his stack. I'm not going to explain how it actually works because I would need an adult to explain that, or someone who plays Spires. But he basically has the Marksman clones go. They shoot and kill this Flame Berserker because he needs to get these little guys dead and off of him. He then has the Leonin Avatar go. They take some decay, but he shoots and kills this... what is it? other Flame Berserkers, so both of them are dead. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to draw into my card. I believe it was Steel Forge. I March Charge. Also, these Leonin take Decay. I will do it in blue, so these guys. I just March Charge my Steel Forge right into them. And if you remember, his Brute Drones were hanging out behind them. So now he's stuck. And I do enough damage on my impacts where I kill another stand. So he's now broken. He draws his character rallies. But the other amazing thing is that I'm on the zone. Woo! Sorry, it's funny. Oh my god. Okay. He then has his Centaur Avatara stuck in with the Wardens. He's like, oh, that's not fun. He starts doing some other stuff with his cards. Fireforge, shoot the Leonin Leonin, kill off a stand. Woot woot. That's what you need in the shoot off. Whoever wins a stand between Fireforge and Leonin is going to win the fight. So I've achieved that role. I think at one point my Wardens go before the Centaurs, and they kill off, or not kill off a stand, but they do a bit of damage. You can see it. I'll do it in. You can see it right here. A little bit of damage. Leonin shoot at the Wardens. Wardens save a bunch. My opponent doesn't hit very well because he's down a stand. He had to like reform and do a couple, use his fluid, try and get a better angle. Does a bunch of wounds, and then the Centaur Avatar have to clash. Kills off my Wardens, but my Wardens have done enough job by keeping them there. I've moved my Steel Forge up. I had to like wheel and march around. I was looking at trying to get the Steel Forge into the Centaurs, looking for the Steel Forge to get into Leonin. Basically, I needed a 5 to roll to get in. I know I'm notoriously bad for charges, so I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not going to waste my time trying to roll a charge and then potentially breaking the Fire Forge and the Steel Forge. That means I'm not scoring the zone, so let's just put more stands on it and get ready for next turn. Because my opponent's Force Drone block is still stuck behind the Leonin and the Centaurs. So I'm fine with that. His Centaurs, after killing my Wardens, charge in. They roll like 3 hits and I make all 3 saves. And now the Centaurs are stuck in with the Steel Forge. I'm really happy about that because I'm just going to clobber him. I'm going to shoot him. But I have 5 stands to his 3, so I'm going to score this zone. I'm going to score the 6, the other 6, and the 9. So that's going to be, I believe off the top of my head, 11 points. It's 10 or 11. So let's see here. Is 2, 2, 4, plus another 6 is 10. Is it 12? Yeah, plus 2. Yeah, it's 12 points. So it's a huge score advantage right there. And my opponent's getting bogged down and he's still losing stuff. I've lost a bunch of my leftover stands. But my Fireforge also run up 10, as you can see. And they're within range to shoot either the Brutes or the Leonin, depending on how that Steel Forge guide goes. So I'm in a really strong spot here. My Wardens are still set up to counterattack anything that comes into the Fireforge or try and get on these zones. Another good one that I've been setting up and trying to manage is 22.1. Get a point there. Between those two sides. There we go. So that my opponent actually has to march and shoot me. And I'm not just letting them take aim and shoot me, so I can at least hopefully keep alive some guys, because I just don't need that type of damage. And that's turn 5, so I'm getting a huge score lead, and I'm kind of breaking through their walls and killing off all the juicy bits. So let's go turn 6. Here's turn 6. So I win the roll-off on this. I remember this particularly, because I drew my Steel Forge card, and I had a choice. Do I kill the Leonin with my Steel Forge, or do I kill the Centaur Avatara with my Steel Forge? I was thinking about it. And I was going... And I asked my opponent this, because I'm like, what do you think is better? Because I really don't know. Do I confirm the kill on the Leonin, because they only got like 2 wounds left, and that one Steel Forge with his 6 attacks is going to rip through them. 7 attacks, because it's 2 from... He's 4 base, 1 for leader, for 5, 2 from the Warlord. So, you know, he's going to go hitting on 5s, re-rolling 6s, and they're going to take a bunch of cleave 1, and you only got like 2 wounds left, so you're going to die. Or do I put in a ton of work into the Centaurs? Because I don't know what card my opponent's going to draw yet, or if they're going to activate their Biomancy nonsense or whatever. However, what it kind of came down to was that I have these Fireforge right here, and that they are within range of those Leonin as well, And they only got 2 wounds, so I can probably just kill them with that unit if I choose not to do that Steel Forge. So I decide to use the Steel Forge fighting the Centaurs. I bludgeon them to death and kill them. Yay! My opponent activates his Biomancy stuff. You know, here he goes. He's healing. I'll use him purple. He's healing this stand. Great. Has marksman clones go. They shoot and kill the Steel Forge, clearing up the Leonin. Then I get into my Fire Forge. I realize that... No, they don't do that. Hold on. He has these Leonin go, and they shoot. Yeah, they shoot the Steel Forge to death. And I think he puts another Leonin card on, like, the bottom or something. And then draws into, like, groups or whatever, and they kind of... No, they don't run forward. I forget what he does. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, these Leonin, shoot those guys. Then my Fireforge go, knowing that the Leonin have gone, and that the Fireforge on the right not necessarily don't have a target, but these Fireforge are free to kill these ones, so they eventually do. With that, my opponent has his marksman clones go. They put some damage onto these guys. His brutes kind of march charge into the Fireforge. I'm okay being in there. My wardens angle so that orange. Once the stand on the left dies, they can just charge right into those brutes. My wizard casts the no score spell on my opponent's brutes, so now my opponent isn't scoring that zone because he's got that one guy in there. The other wardens shuffle about. I think these Fireforge, I forget if they try and shoot these guys. I don't know if we even got there, but I think at that point, my opponent calls it because I'm going to score 3 zones again. And at this point, even if his brutes are stuck in with the Fireforge and maybe they kill a stand and the wardens get in there and kill off his brutes, the Steel Forge are going to get his Leonin, and then I'm going to grind out the Force-Grown Drones, but I already have such a high score lead that my opponent can't catch up. So he just calls it. I'm like, all right, good game, and let's go to the score. So my opponent, he's got 14. He killed, I just got to look at this now. He killed 1 Steel Forge for 2, double Flame Berserks for another 4, so 6, and then one of the Warden units for another, so 8 points. So 14 plus 8 is 22. Yeah, so 22 points. For my opponent's side, let me go find his list again. I killed both Strix for 4. I killed a Leonin and a character for another 4. That's 8. I killed Centaur Avatar for another 2. I killed Vanguard clones for another 2, so it's 12. Marksman and High Clone were still alive. One of the random Leonin were still alive. Brutes and Pharaoh. Yeah, so get another 12. 12 plus 24 plus 18. 54. Ending on turn 6. So, yeah, I can see why my opponent was like, I'm kind of done here. Because even if my opponent, I feel at this point, killed off my Fireforge and I killed off his brutes, I don't think his marksman clones are really going to be, not necessarily scoring, but he's got to run them forward now to get onto the zone. At that point, I could be aggressive and try and jump him and get those wardens across to either counter score or tie him up, because once those marksmen get tied up in melee, they're just going to die to wardens. He's not going to have enough damage to clear them off. I was checking with my left side wardens if I could score both, if they could like stretch out long enough. He can't. But I would kind of just move and try and hide and keep my wardens safe for the next couple turns to just kind of generate points. Make my opponent move and work for it. The right side, the Fireforge are kind of just shooting. I'm also trying to get the Steel Forge into the Leonin and kind of kill them off. Then I'm going to get the Steel Forge into the Force-Grown Drone block. He's just going to... Probably the Force-Grown Drones are going to win because of Lethal and the Biomancer nonsense. But hopefully I can keep them way long enough that I can score like 3 zones for a couple more turns to keep that score lead. And, you know, go to 10. I don't really think my opponent's going to be able to catch up, especially if he just has 2 regiments to my 4. Go from there. For myself, Losing Steel Forge, there's like the one big mistake I remember from this game is that I should have had the Flame Berserkers go first, just to kill off the Vanguard clones. I kind of wanted to kill the Strix on the right side first, because I knew that side would matter a lot, because I would try and keep them out and try and score that, so it's going to prevent him from getting double points, and put me ahead by 3 points a turn, what's going to cascade as the game goes on. So I prioritized that right side. At the time, I feel like I should have prioritized the Flame Berserkers, because they lost the stand. The auto rally really helped, and I killed off one stand, and the Fireforge kind of came up and popped them. So like it worked out, but I felt like I should have done that. However, in retrospect now, I do think my play on the right side was the correct play. I keep constantly putting pressure with those 3 regiments into my opponent, making sure the Centaur Avatar couldn't charge. So my opponent wanted to stop me with Strix, but me killing Strix and freeing up the Wardens to not get bogged down to then just march charge the Centaurs to hold them back, while getting the Fireforge into position to do work and to score zone, was really key to my victory. The Wardens, I wanted them to do more work. They were kind of relegated to babysitting the zones. I wanted them to be more aggressive because I want their spells for -1 resolve, not scoring, any kind of thing I can use to get more work out of them. But they just had to kind of sit back there and do zones. I thought about putting Fireforge over there, and I talked to my opponent about this, and he's like, no, don't put Fireforge over there. Your shorter range won't allow you to commit. They're kind of just guarding it. While if the Fireforge were more in the middle, as I had them, they can at least commit and do work. There was another option where I kind of moved the Fireforge onto the zone, and that frees up the Warlord Warden unit to kind of shoot outward, but the shots just kind of worked, and even if the Fireforge got bogged down, and I'm just waiting for a stand to die, so I can just put a Warden card at the bottom of my deck, and I have more, do I have more cards than my opponent? My opponent has a lot of characters still at this point, but I'm waiting for my opponent to kind of kill off a stand, and then I'm just going to go and, you know, kill his stuff. I might come off the zone to go blow up his brute block at that point, you know, get another 2 points, but also free up the Fireforge who can run forward, or they can get back into the zone and the Wardens can run forward and score that 6-inch, and then I can collapse more. So there's stuff there. My opponent had all the tools to win this game we were talking about after, and the big thing that hindered him is that it's a very technical list. You got to get your reps in, you got to fully understand it, you got to make sure it works. We also kind of talked about him kind of stepping on his toes a bit with his deployment, and maybe should have been a little bit more aggressive or get into better positioning. He kind of likes to sit in spots and then let people come to him, I've noticed. But he could have sat, I guess, in better spots. Like, there's times where he would just, like, pass with the Leon and Avatara and not get any work done because he's just kind of sitting there waiting. And it's like, well, you could have moved up maybe a little bit or positioned your deck so that they were further down, so that as things hit different lines, you could kind of get them in better spots to shoot. I know they're his big workhorses, but I feel once the lines are met, getting your high priority stuff that do a lot of damage out of the way first, especially, like, even if it's melee, especially if it's kind of, not especially if it's melee, but you gotta look at it like, will I get a lot of work done with this melee regiment and then will it die, or will I be able to get some work done with my shooting and then melee and it'll live? Like, between your cards, your opponent gets a chance to do something. You just don't know what your opponent's doing. So I try and get priority targets out of the way as quickly as possible so that the regiments that are engaged with them are still alive to do that job. And so I feel like there's, I don't know necessarily if there's a bit of target priority misplays. I don't really think there was either. I think it was just like he needed to focus on his stack and learn the technicality of the list itself. So it was a good game. Thanks for watching and enjoying it. I hope everyone had a great time. If you want to support, like and subscribe, check out BonkTable Discord, check out the podcast, all that other stuff. Hope you guys all have a great day. Bye!